Good morning. Welcome to COVID Central for Sturgis Public Schools. I want to talk to you real quick about three things. One, when I do not need to quarantine. Number two, when quarantine may be required. And the third one is going to be isolation requirements. First one, no quarantine required if you're a close contact. That's defined as within 6 feet of a positive case for more than 15 minutes. But I do not need to quarantine if I am asymptomatic and I'm vaccinated. I'm asymptomatic and I've tested positive within the last 90 days, or if I'm asymptomatic, unvaccinated, but greater than 3 feet away. And the last one is if both persons were appropriately masked. If you meet any of those four requirements, you do not need to quarantine. Quarantine may be required if you're within that 3 feet radius for 15 minutes or more. That is a cumulative time. You have two options if you're considered a close contact. Option number one, you can appropriately wear a mask for 7 days. What is appropriately wearing a mask? That means over your nose and under your chin. If we have students that aren't wearing it appropriately and they're in our classroom or we see them in the hallways, that we just need to remind them that they need to wear it appropriately. If not, they're going to be changed over to option number two. Option number two is that you quarantine for 7-day period. After that 7-day period, you can come in. There's a caveat that on day 4 or after, you can go take a test. If that test comes back negative, you can get a free return to school card. So we as staff members just need to remember that we have the ability that if under option one, the person's not wearing a mask appropriately, that we can educate them how to wear it. If they continue to violate that, then we would move them to option two, which would send them home. The other incident for close contact would be exposures at home. Exposures at home kind of fall into two different categories. If I'm able to separate or not separate. Separate means that we're not sharing any common rooms. We're not using the same restroom. We're not using the kitchen. We're not having dinner together. We're not watching TV together. Any of those things. If I'm watching those things together, that's not separation. But if I cannot separate, I have to serve the 10-day isolation period that the positive person has to serve. Then after that 10 days, I can start with option number one or number two. If I can separate, if I can avoid that positive person at my house, then I can immediately start with option number one or option number two. The last one is, when is isolation required? Isolation is required for anybody who tests positive. Doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, if you mask or unmask, it doesn't matter. You have a 10-day isolation period. That also applies to somebody who's called probable. A probable is somebody who was in close contact with a positive case, but they also are now starting to show symptoms. As soon as they start showing symptoms, they are considered probable and they have to be out for 10 additional days. We just need to remember that the symptoms for COVID are very similar to the symptoms for the common cold, influenza, strep throat, even the seasonal allergies. We have to use our best judgment. And if there's any doubt, then we could isolate and test and have them give us the results of that test to return to school or to remain out. If you have any other questions, please give me a call or send me a message and I will try to get to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Have a great day.